Hi guys, hope you're doing good. Welcome to News in 30 minutes. And today the issues are less, so let's be more crispier and let's be more clearer on the issues. Okay, so let's get on with the first issue. The first issue is, what is rapid ice melt in West Antarctica? What does it mean? Basically what they're talking about is the rapid melting of ice sheet in West Antarctica is now unavoidable according to the new study. And what does this ice sheet means? See, what you may think is, you may think it from a normal parlance, but there is a difference between what is a glacier, what is an ice sheet, what is an ice shelf, and what is an iceberg. Okay, and overall what is sea ice. Okay, so these are different terms that they can give in the exam, and you should have very good clarity of what this means. Okay, so before I get into that aspect, let me just give you the distribution of land and water on earth and the distribution of water on earth. Okay, so before we step into this particular terminologies, just a small introduction. That is, if you take earth, 71% of earth is water, okay, and 29% is land. Okay, and in this 71% water, 96.5% of water is in oceans, so this is salt water, and 3.5% is fresh water. Okay, 3.5% is fresh water. Okay, now if you take this 3.5% of fresh water, 70% of this fresh water is locked in glaciers and ice caps. Okay, that is why I gave you this introduction. So overall, if you take 3.5% of the fresh water that is left on earth, in this 3.5% of fresh water, 70% of it is logged in glaciers and ice caps. Okay, there are two ice sheets that you should know. Two ice sheets. One ice sheet is Antarctica ice sheet, and the second ice sheet is Greenland ice sheet. Okay, one is Antarctica ice sheet and the second is Greenland ice sheet. These two ice sheets together form 2/3 of fresh water locked in glaciers. Okay, so 2/3, that is almost 66% of the fresh water that is locked in glaciers is there in Antarctica ice sheet as well as Greenland ice sheet. Okay, it is Greenland ice sheet. Greenland is a part in north of Canada and north of Western Europe as well as north of Iceland. This Greenland belongs to Denmark. So both the ice sheets, one Antarctica ice sheet as well as the Greenland ice sheet together, forms 2/3 of fresh water that is locked in the glaciers. Okay, now you got a background of the distribution of water on earth. Once you got the background, now let us look at these terminologies. Okay, what's a glacier, what's an ice sheet, what is an ice shelf, and what is a iceberg. Okay, now if you look at this diagram, just observe one. Can you see the mountain glacier? Okay, this is a mountain glacier. Then they have written something called ice sheet, then you have ice shelf, and then you have iceberg. Okay, I'll remove the marking so that you can see this clearly. Okay, now just observe the mountain glacier, observe the ice sheet, observe the ice shelf, and observe the iceberg. Okay, now let me just define what these terms are. If I have to define what is glaciers, if I have to define what is glacier, glacier is moving mass of ice. Glacier is very similar to a river. Just like a river, a glacier as a source, a glacier as a destination, and just like a river, glaciers also flow or move in a same path. Okay, so glaciers are nothing but moving mass of ice. Okay, now if the glacial ice is very vast, okay, it is very vast, it is so vast that it covers an area of more than 50,000 square kilometer. Okay, if the glacial ice is very vast and if it covers an area of more than 50,000 square kilometer, then you call this glaciers as ice sheet. Okay, now observe the diagram. Glaciers are moving mass of ice. Okay, now look at the ice sheet. If a glacial ice extends for more than 50,000 square kilometer, then you call it as a ice sheet. Okay, so I hope you understood what is a glacier. A large scale glacier is known as ice sheet. Okay, so if I take this as a land, now if I do this as an ice sheet, okay, so let us say that this is an ice sheet. Look at this, it is spread almost covering the entire land. Okay, now as you can see, this part of the ice sheet, this part of the ice sheet is not on land, it is floating on water. Okay, if you observe properly, this part of the ice sheet, okay, look at this in the diagram. Are you seeing this? This part of the ice sheet, that is floating on the water, that part is known as ice shelf. So if I have to define what is ice shelf, when an ice sheet extends over oceans, then you call it as ice shelf. I hope you got this. So once the ice shelves break into smaller parts, then I call it as iceberg. Okay, so I'll redefine all the terms. One is glaciers. Glaciers are moving mass of ice. They are analogous to a river. The only difference is rivers are moving as a liquid water, whereas glaciers move as a solid ice. Okay, however, both have source and destination and they move in the same path. Now, large scale glaciers that exceeds the size of greater than 50,000 square kilometer is known as ice sheet. Okay, now this ice sheet, when it spreads over the oceans, that spreaded part over the ocean is known as ice shelf. And when that ice shelf breaks into smaller chunks, then you call it as icebergs. Okay, so these are the four terms. Okay, now what do you mean by sea ice? As you can see, this is sea ice. Sea ice is very different. Sea ice is nothing but freezing of ocean water. Sea ice is nothing but freezing of ocean water. It does not mean breaking of iceberg into smaller chunks. It is wrong. Sea ice is nothing but refreezing of ocean water. So when the ocean water moves towards polar regions, because the temperature is less than 0 degrees, this ocean water will freeze and become sea ice. I hope you understood the difference. Okay, so sea ice is very different from iceberg, ice shelf and ice sheet. So you should know this difference. So this is broadly the term. So what the study is telling is, increasingly in the West Antarctica, increasingly what is happening in the West Antarctica due to global warming. Okay, due to global warming is resulting in increased sea surface temperatures. Global warming is increasing the sea surface temperatures of all oceans. Okay, it is increasing the sea surface temperature of all oceans. So because the temperature is increasing, what happens? Ice shelf starts melting. Okay, it is the ice shelf that melts first, not the ice sheet. So when the ice shelf melts, all this while the ice shelf was providing a balance. It was providing a balance to the ice sheet. That is, it was acting as a balance for the ice sheet to move slowly down the slope. Okay, now because the ice shelf is going to melt, if the ice shelves melt, then the glaciers or the ice sheet, okay, then the glaciers or the ice sheet will move more faster. It will move more faster, and if it moves more faster into the ocean, it will move into the ocean and discharge water. Okay, so if it discharges more and more water into the ocean, obviously what will happen is it will result in global sea level rise. I hope you got the problem what is happening. Now let me just reiterate what is happening. Because of global warming, the sea surface temperatures of the oceans are increasing. When the sea surface temperatures of the oceans are increasing, the ice shelf melts. The job of the ice shelf is to create a balance for the ice sheet. So the ice sheet, because of ice shelf, moves very slowly down the slope. Now when the ice shelf itself melts, the balancing force that was provided by ice shelf is no more there. So when there is no balancing force, the ice sheet will easily move into the water. Water, being warmer temperatures because of global warming, will melt the glaciers. The glaciers will discharge more and more water into the glaciers. That will result in global sea level rise. Okay, there is one estimate that says, due to the melting, if we melt the ice sheet of Antarctic, if we melt the ice sheet of Antarctic completely, then it will result in 5.3 meters of sea level rise globally. Are you seeing this? This is enormous. 5.3 meters of sea level rise is enormous. So if we just melt one ice sheet of Antarctic, it will result in 5.3 meters of sea level rise in global sea level. So this is the impact of climate change on Antarctic Ocean, especially on the ice sheets of Antarctic. So I hope it was clear. So to just summarize the entire article, you got to know what is sea ice. Sea ice is very different from these four scenarios. Sea ice is freezing of ocean water when the ocean water enters the polar regions. However, glacier is moving mass of ice. Ice sheet is at a larger scale. When the glaciers exceed more than 50,000 square kilometers, then you call it as ice sheet. These ice sheet, when they spread over the oceans, are known as ice shelf, and the ice shelves break into smaller parts known as icebergs. The melting of ice sheet, what they are telling, is mainly because ice shelf is melting very fast. If ice shelf melts, it will result in ice sheet melting, because ice shelf was the one that was actually inhibiting the movement of ice sheet into the oceans. If ice shelf only is not there, then ice sheet can easily move into the oceans. This is the problem. Global warming is the greatest threat for Antarctica, is what this article is talking about. So I hope it is clear. There are very high chances for them to play with these words in your prelims exam. So please have good clarity on it. Okay. The next issue is Jharkhand is likely to adopt Tamil Nadu model to prevent human trafficking. Okay, human trafficking is a very huge problem in India because one, we have a huge border. Okay, second is we have very high informal workforce, and the third is we have huge migrant population. Okay, because of these three reasons, not only in Jharkhand but in the entire India, human trafficking is a huge problem. Okay, now coming back to Jharkhand, from 2017 to 2022, if we take the total cases of human trafficking, around 1574 people have been subjected to human trafficking only in Jharkhand. Okay, so imagine if we take the entire India, what should be the number? It will be huge. Okay, so human trafficking is a major problem in India, as I told you, because of these three reasons. Now, Tamil Nadu model of tracking the migrant population, tracking these laborers is very, very good. Hence, the Jharkhand is likely, because they are still planning, but it is likely to adopt Tamil Nadu model to prevent human trafficking. Okay, so before we get into how to use this in your answers, let us first look at what is this Tamil Nadu model to prevent human trafficking. Okay, so Tamil Nadu as as a legislation exclusively for manual workers. Okay, now look at this. The name of the legislation is Tamil Nadu Manual Works Tamil Nadu Manual Works Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Work Act 1982. Okay, so let me repeat it. Tamil Nadu Manual Works Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Work Act 1982. So basically this act does two things. One is regulation of employment, as well as it also takes care of the people by looking through the conditions of work. Okay, so one, let me give you a provision of this. One is they define 68 types of manual work, which also includes domestic work. Okay, so domestic workers are also included in this act. The second is they have a registration database. They have a registration database for all manual workers. That also includes domestic workers. Okay, now this database is important because it helps them monitor the movement and the status of these laborers. So this gives them less scope for any type of human trafficking, for any type of exploitation of labor. Okay, the third is they also this act also talks about the rights of manual workers as well as domestic workers. That is the third point. The fourth is they also set up what they call as welfare board, okay, which looks after the welfare of these laborers. So broadly, four things that this act does. One is it defines what are the manual and domestic works, which has to be regulated from employment perspective and as well as conditions of work perspective. The next is the database that records and registers all such laborers so that we can monitor them as well as look at the status. The third is it talks about their rights so that they are not exploited and they are not subjected to human trafficking. And further, the welfare board, which looks after the welfare of these laborers. Okay, so this is a successful model in preventing human trafficking. Okay, so not only in Jharkhand, but it should also be replicated in the rest of India. That is what is the suggestion. Now see, one is they are never going to ask you in the exam about what is Tamil Nadu Manual Works Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Work. Then why are you studying this? You are studying this because you can push this into the answer anywhere that talks about labor reforms, anywhere that talks about human trafficking, anywhere that talks about good model of governance. Are you seeing this? Anywhere that talks about bottom-up approach, because the registration database is done at a village level. They collect the data from the panchayat upwards. So this is another example of bottom-up approach. Are you seeing this? So whatever case studies and examples that you study, you did not wait for them to ask you them. You can push this in the answers in relevant categories whenever you feel it is relevant. Okay, you can also, let us say that there is a case study that is talking about different labor exploitation. In that case study, you can push this. You can tell that there is a Tamil Nadu model which me as a DM or me as an actor will try to implement this. That will create that extra factor in pushing your marks by 2 or 2.5 extra. Okay, so this is what the issue is. So basically this is how you have to make use of whatever you study in the current affairs to be used in the answer. Otherwise studying current affairs is useless. Okay, just studying for the sake of hoping that they will ask this in the exam is completely useless for current affairs. Whatever you study for current affairs, you should always study with an attitude that I will use this in some part of the answer, in some sections of the paper, or in any paper possible. Only then you have to put this in your notes. Otherwise there is no point of studying, because they are never going to ask you give the provisions of Tamil Nadu Manual Work Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Work Act 1982. This is never going to come. I hope you got the relevance. Okay, so this is about this issue. The next issue is the Para Asian Games. Okay, it was a very proud moment for us to see our para athletes perform. So the performance of India in the Para Asian Games has also been India's best ever. Okay, hence you have to know some statistics, because sports is making its appearance again and again in UPSC prelims exam. So you should have some statistics about the recent sports, especially if India is part of it. Obviously India has performed good in Asian Games also, and I've given you the important facts in the relevant video. So here the Para Asian Games, our para athletes have also done India proud. So to give you a summary of what has happened, India's best ever performance is this time, that is 2023, and India has won 111 medals. Okay, amongst these 101 medals we have 29 gold, 31 silver, 51 bronze. Okay, 29 gold, 31 silver, 51 bronze. I don't think you have to get to that level where they'll ask you that details, but you should know that 111 medals and 29 gold. This is a little important. The next is two important stats that is very there can be chances of asking is one, India has finished 5th in the overall rankings in the Asian Para Games. The 5th, after the first will be China, Iran, Japan and South Korea. Okay, and India comes 5th. That is one thing that you should know. The next is, it is a very proud moment that India has broken 6 world records and 13 Asian records. Okay, which is very good. It has broken 6 world records as well as 13 Asian records in this Asian Para Games of 2023 that happened in Hangzhou of China. Okay, so basically this article tells that it was a very proud performance by the para athletes, and we are looking forward for the next Paris Olympics, that is 9 months away, and how they perform there. Okay, so this is one important fact that you should know from prelims angle. But one more thing that I would take from this article is the case study of Sheetal Devi. She is a 17-year-old who has inspired not only the youth but also the entire population of India. Okay, we constantly keep complaining about things that we don't have, but when we see people who are making much of their life with all the limitations that they have in their life, shows how important attitude is. Okay, the case study of Sheetal Devi, who is an armless archer who won 3 medals in the Asian Para Games of 2023. Out of this were 2 gold medals and 1 silver medal. Okay, and she is the first woman to win 2 gold medals in 1 Asian Para Games. So that is a huge achievement. Now, barring that all aside, she is an armless archer. That shows that to reach to that level shows that she is an image of resilience and hope. Okay, she is an image of resilience and hope. The next is, she is a spirit that can rekindle life. She is an example of a strength. What can the strength of a determined mind do? Okay, the next is, she's the one who is an example of this adage called nothing is impossible. Are you seeing this? So one case study of this young girl called Sheetal Devi can be used in different scenarios in your essay, in your ethics, as a motivation, as a sign of emotional intelligence, as a sign of determined mind, as a sign of attitude. You can use it in several topics. It's a very excellent case study of Sheetal Devi. She not only made us proud, but she also showed us to not complain, but to keep working and look for solutions. This was a very good case study for your ethics. And see, there are 303 para athletes who participated in Asian Para Games. Okay, each of these 303 para athletes have come from the depth of despair. Okay, they have come from the depth of despair, and now they have achieved a very tall stature once winning medals in the para games. So you can take up different para athletes, study about them and make a note of them that you can use as an introduction in your essay, or as an introduction in your ethics, or as case studies and examples to substantiate different concepts in your ethics example. This is how you can collect a inventory of examples that can be replicated in different scenarios according to the relevance of the question being asked. Okay, so this case study of Sheetal Devi was something that I felt very much attached, and something that I felt is more applicable in your answers as well. Okay, so overall, these are the issues of today. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you are able to get how reading current affairs has to be applicable in your studies as well as your answer writing. If it's not applicable in your answer writing, then reading current affairs is a waste of time. So I hope I'm making that very widely evident whenever I'm talking about these issues. Okay, so with that, I will take your due. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share and subscribe if you think that these videos are creating some small change in your UPSC preparation. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.